Hello, everyone. On behalf of CAI and the Great IT Professional, we would like to welcome you today to this webinar on 7 principles for growing high-performing product teams. This webinar has been developed by Hector Del Castillo. My name is Wendy Nolan, and I'm the host for CAI's Great IT Professional Educational Program. You will be able to hear Hector and myself as panelists, but the other audio lines have been muted. Hector has over 17 years of experience collaborating with executives and entrepreneurs to grow their businesses. As a consultant and coach, he ensures organizations achieve a sustainable competitive advantage by guiding executives, growing high-performing teams, building capacity and capability, and improving processes and deploying best-in-class tools. Hector, thanks so much for being with us today. Would you like to tell us more about BoldPM?
Yes, and first of all, I'd like to thank you for an opportunity to lead this discussion. And BoldPM is a product management and marketing strategy consulting firm, and we help executives and leaders within product-centric companies to build high-performing product teams and transform ideas into insanely great products and achieve massive business growth within the organization by outperforming competitors.
Great, thanks so much. Today's webinar is brought to you and sponsored by CAI. CAI is a global IT services and outsourcing firm that's managing active engagements with over 100 Fortune 1000 companies and government agencies around the world. We aspire to be a great company that provides innovative products and services, and we're also focused on making a positive impact in our communities. You can learn more about our community work at caicares.com. CAI is founder-led. It's a privately run firm. It was started in 1981 and is currently approaching $700 million in yearly revenue. Our products and services include application development and support, service desk, agile and testing services, DevOps, contingent staffing solutions, as well as intelligent automation. You can learn more about our offerings and our international locations at cai.io. CAI does recognize the importance of continuous learning and personal development, so we are delighted to be here today to facilitate today's webcast. CAI produces free live webinars throughout every week of the year. We do that via our educational outreach program, The Great IT Professional. Through this program, you can gain free access to over 100 live webcasts, as well as unlimited access to our online library of over 1,000 hours of educational material. We have a mobile app, so that puts all of the learning in the palm of your hands. And because CAI's Great IT Professional is a registered education provider with the PMI, all of the material is approved with PDU credits. If you're not a member, you can become one by going to greatpro.org. Thanks so much for your patience, and thanks again to you, Hector. We are certainly happy to have you with us, and I will turn it over to you.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. And hello, everyone. I'd like to welcome all of you and give you a warm welcome for being here today. And today's discussion will focus on this particular topic. We will identify 7 principles for growing high-performing product teams. And why is this important? Well, those of you who work in product organizations know that more than 50% of new products usually fail within 3 years of introduction. And in this discussion, we will focus on identifying the root cause for those failures, as well as identifying the key ingredients, 7 principles for growing high-performing product teams that can then figure out within the organization how to achieve much better product outcomes. And as we get started, first of all, I want to give a special thanks to the Great IT Professional and CAI for putting together this great platform that gives you unlimited PDUs and great continuing education for those of you who are IT professionals, as well as project management and program managers. And also a shout out to Podcast Village, because I am recording this particular session and we will be converting this to a podcast, and we will be sharing this with everyone who attended and registered to attend this particular session. Also, if you're on Twitter, I'd like to encourage you to actually share any content, any knowledge that you want to share with your followers using these particular hashtags, and also follow myself as well as the Great IT Pro 1. That is the handle for the Great IT Professional. And that way we will be sharing and retweeting whatever it is. And also, I will just share the hashtags and also the handles on chat, so you can just cut and paste, and that'll be easier for you to include any information, any comments regarding today's discussion and anything that we share during today's live session. Also, if you want to participate and win, you can actually check in using any of the two links at the bottom of this slide. And if you check in, there'll be some additional free resources. I actually shared the check-in link. I will be sharing that right now via the chat window so that you can actually also check in. And the other alternative is you can actually follow the second link that was just sent out, and that's a way for you to connect directly to me via LinkedIn, and I will then send you a link where you can view today's slides, and then also we'll be posting the video and the podcast later, making it available to everyone who is following my talks. I also want to point out that there will be a Q&A portion at the end of this discussion, so we'll have a few minutes of discussion, but we'll be having some questions, so be sure to use the chat window to type in your questions, and a moderator will be asking the questions during the Q&A portion of today's discussion. So today's discussion will focus on understanding, why do so many new products fail? I mentioned earlier that multiple studies over time, the last few years, have shown that regardless of the industry or market or the products, more than 50% of new products fail within 3 years of introduction. And obviously, this is not a very repeatable process, especially when products and the revenue from products is the lifeblood, cash flow, as well as profitability for many of these companies. So often, I get involved in working with executives and leaders within organizations, trying to figure out how to achieve much better product outcomes that can then increase the sales revenue and also increase the profitability for the company. What we'll be discussing today is understanding, number one, why do most products fail? And then number two, the critical importance of product management within product-centric organizations. And also then building the 7 principles for building high-performing product teams. And share with you some key takeaways, and then we'll jump into Q&A. So let's go ahead and get started. So why do most products fail? Well, if you look at, before we get actually into discussions, I'm going to actually ask this question, and a poll will be presented to you. And the question is, why do most new products fail? From your perspective and your experience, why do you think it is that most products fail? And select one of these available options. First option is your value proposition is unclear. Second option, prospects don't know who you are. Third is you don't understand buyer behavior, or organization doesn't understand fully buyer behavior. Your offering lacks consistency, or is it that you have inconsistent customer experience? And I believe the poll will be presented to you, and we'll give you a few seconds to share your answer. And for those of you who already have an answer, if you can actually share via chat your answer, that would be great. I see at least one of you saying all of the above, and I understand. I would say if you can pick and prioritize the number one issue that you believe is causing most product failures within your organization, figure out which one of these 5 is the culprit, the main culprit for product failure within your organization today. And I see that a few of you are still responding. And so before we actually share the results, we'll give you a few more seconds to respond. And I'm going to be sharing what I'm seeing on the chat. Some of you are saying prospects don't know who you are. Some of you are saying not understanding buyer behavior. Others are saying that your offering lacks consistency, and yet others are saying that the lack of process and the value proposition being unclear. So it looks like it's actually going to be a good mix across all 5. That's what I'm seeing in the responses, and a lot of emphasis on option C, which is you don't fully understand buyer behavior and the way that it's changing. How are we doing on the responses? So before we proceed, I believe that the actual responses will be actually shown to you, and we'll give you a couple of more seconds to respond, and then we'll close the poll and see if we can share the results with you. Okay, why don't we go ahead and display the results? So if you guys are seeing the results, what I'd like to share is that usually, if you look at the literature, and we actually will look at the next point, when you look at across any study that is out there, achieving a steady flow of successful products is really a huge challenge for most organizations. And in today's world, the Amazon effect, what I would call the Amazon effect, where most people are now used to getting what they want on finding what they want online and then buying it online and getting it immediately the same day, or if not the next day, that really has changed a lot of buyer behavior across product categories. And it's really causing a lot of major issues, because even in industries like insurance, we are all now looking for a different way of finding the right product for us. And we expect that product to be easily customized for the way we use it and priced the way that we want to be priced before we actually buy. And we want this now. We don't want to be waiting for our product. We want to be able to access it as soon as we buy it. And that is changing buyer behavior. And usually, if you are in environments where typically that hasn't been the customer experience or the buying behavior, you're looking at really a lot of changes of buyer behavior, even if it's not traditional within your market or your industry. And any of these reasons end up being reasons why most products fail within the first 3 years of introduction. It could be that your value proposition is unclear to your targets. Your prospects don't know who you are because you're a brand new company and lack the brand awareness or the brand equity that other companies have. Maybe your offering lacks consistency, and sometimes that is a major issue. And maybe the offering is not really as complete as you think it is. And also, it may be that your customer experience lacks consistency. Any of these 5 reasons are the reasons why most new products fail within first 3 years of introduction. So if you answer all of the above, it's probably that you may have not one, but multiple challenges that need to be addressed within your organization. And this is why it is critical for you to understand the 7 principles for building, growing, and leading high-performing product teams. So I mentioned earlier that in today's world, where the Amazon effect has been spreading globally, most vendors just don't focus enough on understanding buyer behavior and how it is changing over time, and how we all will evaluate products and make purchase decisions, and how that process has been evolving in the last 10, 15 years. If you look at what most experts are doing, Boston Consulting Group has a great TED Talk, and you can actually find that TED Talk following the link at the bottom of the slide. And by the way, all the slides that have hyperlinks will be live hyperlinks in the slides that I will be sharing. You can actually go directly and view this on your own time and find out what this talk is about. But the bottom line is that in today's world, most companies fail because they either do too much of the same without context and don't look at things that they don't control that are changing. Things like buyer behavior, things like market conditions, as well as industry and trends that sometimes often become challenges that are against you, because you got now a lot more competitors and everybody is saying that they're doing the same thing that you do, and trying to find a unique value proposition is extremely hard. And most vendors also fail to anticipate risk. Sometimes disruption, you can see it because disruption will yield maybe often volatility in your revenue, ambiguity in what you're offering and to whom, uncertainty as to what the roadmap looks like. And it may be that you need to add so many new things to your offering to make it more complete that it becomes a lot more complex. And so is the way if you are doing anything that has to do with the Internet of Things today. Making products like the Ring or anything else that is associated with Internet of Things is actually adds more complexity, and complexity means that you now have to spend a little bit more time figuring out exactly what you're offering and what your solution is and how to position your solution uniquely in the marketplace that keeps on evolving very quickly. So let's move on to the next thing. Why does product management matter, and why is it so critical? Why is this function and this role of product management and product marketing so critical within product-centric companies? If you are a product vendor, or even when you are a services company and you're a service provider, you can actually apply the same principles and be able to then manage and lead highly productive, high-performing teams that can then control all the challenges that comes along with your product, even when your product is a service. So product management and product marketing are critical business functions that guide executives and managers to make smarter decisions and get better results. And in today's world, those decisions and the results, you have to achieve them faster. And what it means is that you need to make smarter decisions faster in today's evolving world. According to a recent CBS News report, product management is the fourth most valuable corporate position, ranked only behind CEOs, other executives, and general managers, as being higher ranked within corporations. And product management and product marketing are the roles, the functions that actually orchestrate value creation within any organization. And usually the challenge of the roles of product management and product marketing actually come because of all the additional interfaces, because these roles will typically interface across the primary activities and support activities, everyone that touches the product. And that often means multiple departments, multiple functions, and resources across the entire organization. And the larger the organization, the more people within each of the functions that are depicted here. So trying to manage all of these internal and sometimes even often external interfaces with the role is usually a challenge within most organizations. And even when they have the roles implemented, resource allocation is usually a major challenge within any organization. And before we go further, actually, we'll do a second poll, and the poll in this case will be displayed. The question is, what is the most important task for product managers? Here's the 4 available options. Please select the one that you believe is the most important task for product managers. Is it 1, lead product development? Or is it 2, to do a win-loss analysis? Or is it 3, to increase the profitability of the product that you own? Or is it 4, talking to customers? If you can pick one of these 4 and you can share on chat, we'll proceed and kind of read what most people are saying, and then we can actually take a look at what I believe is the most important task for product managers. So I said many of you are responding and saying, number 1 role is to talk to customers. By far, a lot of the majority of you are saying talk to customers is the number 1 thing that product managers do. And I will give you a few seconds to actually respond. And if you can pick one of these 4, I see some of you are saying leading product development is the number 1 task for product managers. And before we actually close this particular poll, we will allow you a few more seconds. And I just want to share, all of these are obviously tasks that product managers do. But product management is really about, number 1, understanding what is most important, and then prioritizing activities and what teams do accordingly. So the number one thing about understanding how to prioritize is to understand that the most important thing for any product is to not just achieve revenue, but actually increasing a product's profitability. So for that reason, the number one task for product managers is to increase product profitability. So we'll go ahead and close the poll, and I believe the answers will be shared with you, and also we'll be proceeding on with today's discussion. So product managers really focus on increasing product profitability. And once you understand that prime directive, that once you are assigned a product within your company, figuring out all the things that are needed to actually increase and improve its profitability over time, no matter what the situation is. In good times and in bad times, figuring out that the number one prime directive is to improve the profitability of your product over time, and that then that can be lined up into what people and the number of people and the functions that are needed to be assigned to the product, the processes, and anything new or anything that is no longer needed that needs to be shed because it's no longer adding value when it comes to process, and scaling the things that are working well so that you can then do more with the same resources. That is all about process. And then finally, applying those guidelines as to how you allocate and assign functions and people and the number of skills to the product, and how you continue to implement and improve processes, be able to treat all of your products the same so that all your products over time will become more profitable. That is the number one task for product managers, and looking at increasing or improving profitability for a product then align is all about figuring out how to align the people within your company, the processes that are adopted or new processes that need to be implemented, and then use that to make all of your product decisions, using your people and your processes to make smarter decisions faster. So what are the challenges? Let's talk about some of these challenges. And actually right now I'm just going to talk about a survey that was done by the 280 group about 4 years ago. I'm going to give you a summary of what they found in terms of the people, the process, and how that impacted the profitability of companies that of the product managers and product marketing managers that were involved in the survey. So first component is people. People, here's what we found. 57% of product managers stated that their role is too tactical and not strategic enough. And usually the role should be about 80% strategic, 20% tactical. And instead, in most companies, product managers are upside down. They're mostly tactical and very little strategic. Second thing, 43% of product managers are not able to influence either engineering or development or management or the leadership effectively because they're not viewed as leaders. And we will learn that leadership is one of the most needed critical skills for product managers. Next thing is 36% of executives indicated that the skill level of their product managers was average or below. And we wanted to actually test this in the next few years, and we'll be sharing some additional information. But the perception is by most executives is that the product managers don't really have the skill set needed or are below average for what they need to be effective in their roles as product managers. And then finally, 38% of product managers are just not viewed as effective leaders. These are all the challenges when it comes to people, and this is a perspective of surveys of product managers and product marketing managers across functions and also across companies, a global survey in the results that were presented. The next thing has to do with process. And in the process lifecycle, there are 3 different stages as to your adoption of process and your maturity of processes as a company, as an organization. You can be ad hoc, you can be partially defined, or you can be optimized. Getting to the optimized phase it's extremely hard because it takes a lot of work and additional teams working on nothing else by designing, testing, and improving processes to ensure that your organization, your entire organization, is operating at its highest level of operational efficiency. So before we actually talk about the outcome, I want to get into another poll and find out what is the level of maturity within your company. Are you at ad hoc level, or are you at the partially defined level, or are you at the optimized level? Pick one of these three, and then if you can share on the chat window, we will also you will also see a poll, and then we will see the results after this. So I will give you a few seconds to pick one of these three. And again, if you want to see the definition of the three because you're not really sure where you are, I'm going to go back to the previous slide and share with you what that is. Ad hoc level versus partially defined versus optimized. Here are the three choices. Pick one of these three, and I will be sharing with you what most of you are saying. So some of you are saying, a few number of you are saying, yeah, you're at ad hoc level. A few of you, some of you are saying you're at the partially defined level. And some of you are saying that you're somewhere in between ad hoc and partially defined. So we will give you a few more seconds to respond to the poll, and then we will proceed on with the next portion, which will be about process. Talk about the survey results from the same survey I was talking about. We started talking about people. Now we'll be talking about process and the level of process maturity within organizations where some of these product managers and product marketing managers are working in when they are struggling with high product failure rate. So most of you are saying you're at ad hoc level. That's the majority of you. Some of you, you're saying you are at the partially defined level. And surprisingly enough, no one has picked optimized level. So let's proceed on with the rest of this discussion. The same survey that I spoke about that was performed in October of 2015 talked about the level of processes from the product manager's point of view. And here's the first outcome. 42% of executives indicated their biggest challenge is process. Well, no wonder, because most of you are either in the ad hoc level or are in the partially defined level, based on the poll that we just had. The next thing is that over 51% of companies believe their process is not well defined, meaning most everyone is at either the ad hoc level or at the partially defined level, and they're still missing some key things that in order to actually optimize process in the way they treat products and the way they try to figure out how to make better decisions about their entire product portfolio. Over 49% of companies do not use a consistent process, meaning the process is not applied consistently across the entire product portfolio. And 70% of companies are in a world where product managers, when they have agile development going on, are also product owners. And this is why most product managers are today mostly tactical and not strategic, because if you are a product owner within any agile environment, when you're doing product development, you're stuck and you're mostly tactical, because that's what product owners are. What we advocate is that product managers and the role of product management should be separate from product ownership. And in most software companies today, when they are adopting agile software development, they make the mistake of making product managers also product owners. And that means that most product managers within that software company will be mostly tactical rather than strategic. And only 25% when it comes to profitability, the way that all of this impacted people and process impacted, it really take a look at what the results are on the profitability. Only 29% of the product managers and product marketing managers that responded to the survey believe that indicated that the executive team really fully understands the role of product management. And furthermore, on average, 21% of their products, what they reported, 21% of their products fail to meet customer needs. And therefore, these products are incomplete in the minds of their customers. And product managers estimate that if people and process would be actually implemented and we worked on and restructured within their companies, they believe that the profitability within their company could be improved by as much as 34%. And that means that the function would have to be optimized, and optimizing the function means that you optimize the people as well as the processes as to how you treat products. And by doing that, you could actually increase profitability by as much as 34%. We will talk about a little bit more about this, but the bottom line of this particular survey that was done in 2015 indicated that, from the product managers and product marketing managers' point of view, most organizations, regardless of the industry or the market or the product, have deficiencies in people, process, and systems, and all of that will erode the profitability of not just the product, but the profitability of the entire company's portfolio, and therefore profitability suffers when it comes to looking at trying to get in a better position, your entire company in a better position. So let's talk about why you should be looking at building and leading high-performing product teams. And then we're getting to the core, which is now, 7 principles as to how you can actually, number one, build and grow highly performing product management teams, and being able to use that to improve your process, and then also improve decisions and achieve better outcomes, because now your products over time will become not just grow the top line, your revenue, you will be able to gradually grow your bottom line, which is the product's profitability. And effectively, as you improve the profitability of your entire product portfolio, then the company's profitability will also increase over time. So number one principle, get executive buy-in. Let there be no doubt about it, the way that you will actually be able to make any of these changes that I'm talking about is to actually get buy-in from your customer, from your executive suite, because they're the only ones that will actually be prepared to make any decisions about your company's profitability and be able to get this right. And what it means is that you actually will need to work hard at convincing your executives when you know that you may have any of these issues that we just pointed out before. And what it means is that you need to not only get the buy-in from your executives, you need to actually put together the business case as to why your company needs to invest in growing and building high-performing product teams. And that task begins by growing your product managers and expanding the number of resources in product management. As you have, the larger your product portfolio is, the more product managers you need to assign to be able to get effective decisions out of your entire product portfolio. So getting executive buy-in is key, and you need to put together a business case. And if you need help with that, reach out to me. Number two, you got to educate your C-suite. And the way you educate your C-suite, there are plenty of items that are out there. One is a video from the 280 group, and you can actually get to that using the hyperlink at the bottom of the slide. And you will see a very short video that talks about everything that I just mentioned earlier, the critical importance of product management within any organization that is selling goods or services. And from there, once you get buy-in and once you have presented a business case and you've gotten the go-ahead, budget approved, and the go-ahead to proceed, then you start implementing and working and putting together a realistic plan. And the plan would have to do with figuring out how to not just design it, but also be able to devise it for execution. And what it means is that the plan needs to have all the critical things to make sure that it's not just smart, but it's actually smarter, which means that you need to make it sure that all the tasks and objectives are specific, they're measurable, they are achievable, they are relevant to the organization, they're time-bound, meaning you have to have schedule, and the ER comes to how often do you evaluate whether or not it is working, and make sure that you can readjust as needed, and make sure that that piece of evaluation and readjustment is continuous until you actually optimize not just the operational efficiency within your organization, but you also will see the results by increased sales revenue for your products and also improved profitability for your products. And I want to talk in here that number one thing that's part of doing this and part of the planning is you want to be able to at least assess your team's skills. And a new survey report that was just published earlier this year by the 280 group actually did just that. They actually surveyed product managers and product marketing managers at all levels within companies, and this was across industries. This was a global study and across markets, and actually looked at everyone from executives in product management to managers of product management to the actual product managers and product marketing managers within companies, and looked at them assessing their own skills. And here's the outcome. Strengths for the most case for product managers are things like domain knowledge, domain expertise, which means hard skills about technologies that make up the product. It's also about a big plus on understanding buyer behavior. And another positive strength was in the way they communicate across teams. Communication is key, and one of the critical skills within for product managers is not just communication, but also leadership. Some of the weaknesses and the top 3 weaknesses that were identified is that few people know how to withdraw a product from the market. Few people really understand how to do competitive analysis in a way that is actionable. And then few people know how to price products the right way. And these are the weaknesses that came out from that report. So once you assess your team skills, then you can start designing a plan as to how you're going to grow your team and then build the skill sets of your product managers as well as the skill sets of other members of the team that may be involved in working alongside with product managers and product marketing managers. So number 4 principle is train your product team. Once you know what their weaknesses are, then you can start designing an entire catalog of courses that will get them to at least become proficient, if not more of a subject matter expert within any of the needed skills. So if you're asking, wait a minute, what are the entire skills that you need? What is the entire skill set that product managers need? Well, I can tell you this much. We're going to talk about some of the outcomes and the way that the skill sets that were actually measured by the report that just came out from the 280 group. But the bottom line is that the report is saying that training does matter. And why does it matter? Because it's been shown that organizations that have product managers and product teams that have a stronger skill set, on average, a stronger skill set of 11 to 17% across all these multiple skill sets usually means that you need to grow your team, and then also it allows them to start making much better decisions faster. So really training yields and a stronger skill set is shown to have direct impact on profitability of products. The other thing is that the skill sets, especially when you're talking about product management, there are 5 knowledge areas, broad knowledge areas, where you need to make sure that the team itself has great knowledge and high knowledge across any of these 5 knowledge areas. Understanding of the product itself, the technologies, and everything else that make up the product. The customer segments that are out in the market or markets. The market itself and the industries that you're selling into. The business and the business model, including the cost structures and revenue streams and the profitability of the business. and also the profitability of the entire product portfolio. And then also about organization, when you need to restructure or create more processes to make up for some of the challenges when that comes along with a growing organization. And that is usually what you want to start gauging, is that you have a skill set that goes across any of these 5 broader knowledge areas. So once you start doing that, now you start defining a much clearer process. And a clearer process means that now you start looking at where do you have deficiencies, and what are the things that are working great that you now need to scale and that you need to start implementing across all of your product portfolio. And process, when it comes to the study, shows that process matters often even more than training your product managers. On the average, this particular report that just was published showed that when you have partially defined and you're trying to get to the optimized level of process within the organization, that usually yields much higher results than just training alone. And usually the range for improvement is somewhere between 12 to 31%, depending on the specific skill set. But usually much better process means that you have about 20% stronger outcomes and skills prepared to be able to make decisions about the product itself. And usually a process means that you have to have some sort of way of defining where is your product in, which phase of the life cycle is that product in. Is it in the new product development process because the product hasn't really been launched? Or is the product already in market and now you're trying to figure out how to clearly differentiate it from competing products? Or is it time for you to actually start thinking about considering how to gracefully withdraw that product from the market and figuring out how to introduce something new that gives you a new revenue stream or revenue streams before you retire or withdraw that product from the market? So these are all things that have to do with process and making sure that you have activities and tasks and roles and resource allocation done depending on where that product is with respect to its life cycle. The next thing would be about defining deliverables and tasks once you have that process. And once you start defining that process in the way, like the example of what I just showed, which is actually comes out of the AIPMM product management and marketing body of knowledge, you can actually now start assigning deliverables. And as you start looking across the 7 phases of any product lifecycle, from conceive to plan to develop to qualify, all the way to retire, there are specific documents that most product managers and marketing managers will get involved in putting together in order to justify the rationale as to what is the most important decision to be made and why you decided to either proceed to the next phase or restart, depending on what you're trying to do. And at any one point, keeping in mind that you're focusing on improving or achieving the highest profitability for your product once it is in market or in preparation for launch, trying to figure out what is the right way what is the right product, number one, to launch, and who are you going to target, and how to build a massive brand awareness about your product and its unique value proposition in the marketplace in order to maximize not just revenue, but also maximize profitability. And so skill sets like forecasting, like doing financial analysis, doing strategic planning, these are all critical skill sets that are all part of what product managers need to really get great at. And I can share with you the whole study and the report of 280 Group showing that the main deficiencies are just those that I showed earlier. Besides those 3, most product managers today are average or below average in doing forecasting and estimation, not just cost structures, but also revenue streams and financial analysis, and also strategic planning of products. These are all critical skill sets that you need to have from the inception of the product, from conceive on to plan. These are the skills that are needed within any team in order for the product to be successful and become profitable over time. Not having the required skill sets within product management or the teams that product managers are dealing with means that you're going to have deficiencies in your plan. Number 7, measuring success. It is critical that at the very onset of putting together the plan for a new product, that you figure out very quickly how are you going to actually measure and evaluate success. And measuring success is very important because things like understanding cost structures and how they will change once you need to scale the production or the delivery or the support, customer support. These are all things that are critical to understand very quickly, even before you actually launch the product, in order to be able to start ensuring that you have the right resources and the right functions prepared to not only launch the product and sell it, but continue to control the expected customer experience, to continue to capture and retain customers over time, because you will need to do both: capture new customers and retain current buying customers in order to improve and increase the profitability of your product. And these are all things that you need to start understanding very quickly, because it's not just about profitability, it's about understanding how to do resource allocation across all the critical functions that are needed in order for you to not just launch, but market, sell, and continue to scale retention and acquisition of new customers. And often you need to benchmark, because especially if you're coming into a very highly competitive environment, you need to make sure that you're benchmarking your competitors, understanding your competition and how they're doing, their profitability, their number of resources, the skill sets within the organization of your competitors, and the value proposition of their products compared to yours. These are all things that allow you to start looking as to how do you continue to improve the profitability of your product, especially when you're going into a highly competitive market, or that over time, because of disruptors, you now have a lot more competition than ever before. These are all things that are critical in understanding that any plan is only as good as to how well you design it so that it can be measurable. And that measuring allows you to start looking at the best options for when and how to readjust, and also how often to evaluate how well you're doing. So these are the 7 principles, and now the key takeaways to wrap up. The 7 principles that I spoke about as part of this presentation is, number 1, you want to be able to get executive buy-in, because what you need to do is actually part of change management, putting together a growth plan for not just product management, but product teams that will be involved in making decisions about products. Educating the C-suite, and that means that you need to now put together a business case and get it approved before you can start putting together and implementing a plan as to how you're going to grow and build high-performing product teams. Then proceeding on to training. Once you assess the skill sets, train your product teams, and then work with other teams to start defining and implementing and testing processes, and figuring out where you're at, whether if you're starting at the ad hoc level or at the partially defined level, figuring out when it comes to process, how are you going to get to the optimized stage, and what does that mean when it comes to process? Then number 6, defining deliverables and tasks that have to go with the product lifecycle, and making sure that the process is consistently applied across your entire product portfolio. You should be able to see the profitability of your entire portfolio go up over time once you start applying the assignment of people, the growth of people, and then the design, implementation, and testing of processes across your entire portfolio. And that allows you to start measuring success and start looking at ways to continue to measure success for your entire product portfolio. So with that is the conclusion, and before we get into the actual Q&A portion, and I'm hoping many of you will have questions, and you can actually type in your questions using the chat box. Be sure to type those in, and if you have not checked in, you can go ahead and check in. And usually what I do is I actually will record and then share all my talks and webcasts. You can actually follow this link, and you can actually see previous, most recent webcasts on a single page. And feel free to reach out if you have any questions, but you can get to this link and be able to view all of my previous, most recent talks. And also, if you need help in building, growing, or leading high-performing product teams, and you want to apply some of these principles that I spoke about today, reach out to me, and we can at least have a chat and figure out exactly where you're at, what your current business situation is, what are your objectives, and maybe talk about some of the things, give you some tips as to what you can do on your own. And if you need help, I'll be more than glad to at least identify ways that I can help you grow and build product teams within your organization. My contact information is here, my email. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn. The short URL actually goes directly to my LinkedIn profile. You can follow me on Twitter at @HMDelCastillo, or you can also visit my personal website. And with that, I think we're ready to go into Q&A.
Thanks so much, Hector. Yep, as Hector said, please feel free to post your questions in the chat function or the Q&A function of WebEx.
And as we're waiting for questions, one of the things that I wanted to point out is I'm actually sharing all these links that via the chat in case you want to follow any of the links that I provided. Also, in the when you're looking at the slides, the hyperlinks that are live, you can go directly to either videos that I refer to or websites, so that you can actually dig a little deeper if needed. And all of that is provided to you for free. Also, if you check in, I'm providing some free resources that will guide you further, as well as information where you can actually get a link where I will be posting my entire deck, this particular deck that we just discussed. In addition, I'll be sharing a podcast and a video where you can view this entire information. And this will be for everyone who attended, but also who registered for this particular discussion.
Thank you. While we're waiting to see if anyone has questions, we'll just go through a few reminders. The PDU code for today's webinar will be sent to you via email. If you would like to become a premium member of the Great IT Professional, you can visit our membership page at greatpro.org. Premium membership is $199 per year. It does allow you unlimited anytime access to our library of over 1,000 educational hours, as well as unlimited free PDU codes and free use of the mobile app. If you work for an organization, we also sell discounted versions of the membership to teams of 5 or more. With the discount, you can get the whole team set up for $99 per user. If you're interested, please contact Susan Sewell at susan.sewell@cai.io, and she'll be glad to help you get set up. For a limited time, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was just...
Okay. If you do register your organization, you're also eligible for a free on-site webinar, on-site presentation with Michael Mudis, who is the creator and director of the Great IT Professional. He coaches individuals and teams so that they can grow continuously and personally and reach their highest potential. You can read about his sessions at greatpro.org/knowthyself. And I'm just going to check back for questions.
One of the questions that I get most often is, hey, how do I get about executive buy-in? And as I mentioned, there's a video that I shared for which I shared the URL for, and that it's a great video. It's a very short video that you can use to actually just view yourself, but then also share that with your executives. And I just shared that link. I sent it out via chat so that you can get access directly to it. But you can also get a hyperlink to that on the deck that we'll be sharing. I will have that live hyperlink if you don't get access to the live session. And I wanted to point out that part of the discussion with the C-suite is sometimes you need to kind of put together and rally the team. And what I mean by that is you need to talk to other people that are in the same function of product management, project management, program management. These are all related management functions that often may have very similar challenges within an organization. It's how to convince executives that it's worthwhile to invest in your workers. And who are the right workers to be investing in? And I think that the people who will be leading those discussions are usually the product managers, the project managers, the program managers within any company. And this will be discussions with executives and other leaders within the company that discusses, how is it that you're going to identify the right resources to grow, and what are the critical skill sets that they need in order for them to be successful at managing the entire product portfolio. And I think it's about identifying, number one, very early on when you start rallying the troops and everyone that you're working with, all your peers, and finding that shared purpose within your team. And what I mean by shared purpose is you need to understand what is it that the team really loves to do, and what is it that the team is really great at doing, and what are your customers really looking for? And aligning that with what is the market problem that you're solving, and what does the world really need? What are the needs that are just so big that it may require not just one but multiple products, and that you can then have a shared purpose because you're aligning your company's strengths and the team's skills and their passion with the company's mission, vision, and from there you will be able to identify the right skill sets that are needed to make decisions about your entire portfolio. So finding the shared purpose is what you want to do first in order to convince your executive team. And then once to capture your rationale as to why is it that you need to grow and build product teams, put that into a business case. And the business case usually will have a few main elements, and that is, what problem is it that you're trying to solve. In this case, it's about growing product teams and getting better product outcomes. You're proposing a solution which entails training and process improvement and development, putting together a set of alternatives, maybe things that you've tried, things that are out there that could give you some results. Put together your business needs and your requirements in that document. Line up the resources that are needed, the systems that will be needed to be deployed, put together a schedule, and then analyze and put together the profit and loss analysis, cost structures, as well as revenue, additional revenue from products that will become more profitable or will start growing the top line as well, and then put together your recommendations. That is the essence of a business case that can be saying, what is the business case to actually justify in investing in growing high-performing teams? And what that means is you need to train your people and also implement processes and get to the right level of process maturity.
Great, thanks so much. I think we have addressed any questions, but certainly Hector's email is on the screen, so if you do have any questions in the hours ahead or days ahead, please feel free to reach out at hector@boldpm.com. If you have any questions for me, I can be reached at wendy.nolan@cai.io, and I hope you'll take advantage of all the great links that Hector has shared and provided today. But on behalf of Hector and CAI's great IT professional, we'd like to thank you for joining us today. We certainly hope to see you again at future events. And Hector, thanks so much again for being with us today.
Yes, thank you very much. It's a pleasure and honor, and thank you very much. Looking forward to doing this again sometime soon.
Great, thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Take care.